Welcome everyone to Monday Match Analysis. I'm Gill Gross. The ATP season is out with a bang. What a week that was in London. What a final that was between Stefanos Tsitsipas and Dominic Thiem. And Tsitsipas comes away with the biggest title of his career. He skipped a step. He's never won a 500. He's never won a 1000. He went right up to the ATP Finals, taking the crown. It was an epic three-setter, and I can't wait to get into it. That's your thumbnail. It's Tsitsipas basking in the glory, and I mean, he's a player who takes the wins with the fullest amount of elation and the losses with the fullest extent of despondency. Tsitsipas so emotional, and that's continued. He's quite the character and quite the player. What a performance that was. Both players should be incredibly proud of what they showed us on Sunday. Before I get into the match, a couple of housekeeping items. One, I will be doing an interview. It will be out Wednesday with Deadspin's former tennis writer, Guri Nathan. He's one of the more talented tennis writers out there, in my opinion. He has very unique perspectives. I'm really excited to talk to him. Talk about tennis, talk about the current landscape of things, but also talk about what happened at Deadspin, where a large number of writers at the website quit and basically a mass exodus from the website. And this was a fascinating transpiring of events, and I want to talk to Nathan about what happened here. He was one of the writers who quit and left Deadspin. So now I believe he doesn't. I don't think he's with anyone at the moment. It hasn't been very long, but I'm excited to talk to him. So an interview will be out on Wednesday that I think you guys are going to really enjoy. The second thing that I want to talk about is the coverage this week. And this isn't, I wouldn't call this an apology, but I just want to communicate to you in an honest manner the situation I'm in. And the reality of my situation is what I want to communicate to everyone. And that is that I believe that this channel is only 25% as good as it could be. It could be a lot better. If I had the resource of time to put into it that I would love to have and that I may have in the future, but I don't have right now. I want to cover Nadal and Medvedev and that incredible comeback from 5-1. I want to cover his three-setter with Tsitsipas. I want to cover Thiem's win over Federer. But the time that I have allotted to do this show is finite, and sometimes I have to pick and choose. So that's why it was 2 days late, a recap of Djokovic Federer, because I needed to pick one, because that's what I had time to do. I picked Djokovic Federer. I felt that was the most significant result of the week that I wanted to dig into, and I was able to get it out late. I thought better than nothing. Turns out there wasn't a lot of interest there because they were both out of the tournament. But again, I'm not apologizing because there's nothing I can do, so why would I apologize? But rather communicating what the situation is. There will be, things could change. The way this channel operates can change for the better, but right now, that's how it is. And I just wanted to say that. There's 75% room for growth if I was able to put everything into this. And I think all we can do is maybe hope that the correct circumstances arise that I can do that. All right, let's get into this match. Now, Tsitsipas, Thiem. Today I'm just drinking water out of my USTA cup. This was it. I had to think about where to go with this, and I settled on starting with the tiebreak and going through each and every point. There was so little between these two. There was very little. There wasn't a lot of tactical interventions that gave either one the edge. So basically, my progression of thought is, were there any tactics that I felt really swung the match? Were there any technical factors that really swung the match? So that could be, well, so and so, wasn't getting returns in play, or so and so was not mixing up, or their second serve wasn't kicking up and it was too easy to return, right? So these would be technical things, or the forehand was, he wasn't able to defend his backhand side. Technically, didn't really see much there that separated these two players, and mentally, I didn't really see much there that separated these players. I thought that both of them are dynamite above the shoulders. So what we have is a match that came down to a couple points. So what better way than to start with this third set tiebreak, dive into the points that swung the match, and then I'll talk about some more overarching themes. And there are some to talk about. The reason that I don't want to start with them is because I feel like it's doing a disservice to the simple fact that this match could have gone either way, and it was really by the skin of basically razor thin margins that decided this match. So let's go over this. We start with the first point of the tiebreak. It's a missed return from Tsitsipas, his only missed return of this tiebreak. In the first set tiebreak, Tsitsipas missed a lot of returns. I want to say 3 or 4, and that really gave Thiem the edge in the first set tiebreak. But in the third set tiebreak, 116 mile per hour slice serve out wide to Tsitsipas's forehand on the deuce side. It stretched him out. He missed it long. 1-0 or 0-1 in favor of Dominic Thiem. Love one if we're going with our manners. If we're not forgetting our tennis etiquette, love one. Sometimes I say 0 when it comes to tie breaks. I don't know why. Second point was a strong second serve, inside out forehand return from Thiem. So Thiem takes control of the point right away, right off the return. The ball sits up for Thiem. He has a forehand from the ad side, the very forehand he wants, and he misses it long. It hit the strings he had all day. He just overhits it, overcooks it, and it's long. Keep that one in mind. The first point, Tsitsipas misses a return, forget about that. Throw that out the window. That's not going to come up again for the rest of the tiebreak. But Thiem overcooking a forehand, and a pretty easy one at that, keep that one in mind. 1-1. This is one of the best points by Tsitsipas of the tiebreak, and it's a point that was pretty unique. It's a strong wide serve from Tsitsipas, opens up the court. He hits a backhand into the open court. So deuce side, out wide serve, gets Thiem off the court, hits a backhand into the open court, comes to the net, puts away a smash. 2-1 Tsitsipas leads. Now, 1-2. Great backhand return from Stefanos off of a first serve from Thiem. It's just inside the baseline. Scorching return. But a good cross-court backhand puts Thiem in a really tough spot. I want to show you this now. So keep in mind, what started this point was a great return from Tsitsipas. And now, one shot later, here's the predicament that Dominic Thiem is in. To me, this is a really tough spot. He's hitting this ball on the rise. He's hitting it open stance on the run. It's going to be very hard for Thiem to hit this down the line, which is probably, if you're looking at the screenshot, you're probably thinking, wow, look at that open court. Thiem can go line here, but he really can't. The likelihood of the difficulty to go line there over the high part of the net and the short court, it would be, and changing direction, to time that up correctly would be very difficult. So he almost needs to go cross. But what's the issue here? The issue here is that Tsitsipas is basically camping out in his backhand corner. Split stepping on the right sideline. So if Thiem goes cross court and it's not really, really good, it's going to be right to Tsitsipas's forehand, which is an incredibly scary shot. And he'd probably take time away, and he could go inside in, he could go inside out. It's one of Tsitsipas's best shots. This is really tough. So here's what happens. Thiem goes cross court, but his target is very small. He knows he needs to try to get this to the backhand. So he goes for this angle, and I know you can't tell from the screenshot, but he misses this just wide, just outside the right sideline. On the far side. So I don't know how this was scored. Did they call this a forced error? Did they call this an unforced error? In my book, that's a forced error because of Tsitsipas's cross-court backhand, and then his court positioning, his strong cross-court backhand, and then his court positioning, and the fear hand. Brad Gilbert calls it the fear hand, and his fear hand drew the error. Not because he hit it, but because Thiem was fearful of it, shrunk the target, and that's what caused the error. There's the mini break. Thiem's up 1-3. On the next point, Thiem hits a, strong cross-court forehand off Tsitsipas. So, okay, right. Tsitsipas hits a good second serve return, but Thiem has an even better reply off the first forehand, a really heavy, strong cross-court forehand. This is going to draw the short ball. If you can get Tsitsipas on the run to his forehand, sometimes you can, his depth can really take a dip. So Tsitsipas gets the short ball. He draws it. Now watch his footwork. In my opinion, Thiem makes a mistake here. Here's the running forehand. This is the short ball. And I drew a red circle in the spot where I feel like Thiem should be looking to move his feet to. If Thiem opened up his hips the other way and shuffled to that red dot, he would have had a forehand, his best weapon, in the middle of the court. But this is puzzling and questionable footwork to me by Thiem because he goes to hit a backhand here. And it's rarely should we see Thiem hitting a backhand from the middle of the court on an attackable ball. He could have made this a forehand. And Thiem misses this backhand below the tape towards the middle of the net. Not height-wise, but width-wise. It's in the middle of the net. Even if he made this backhand, Thiem would have been right there. So this was tough because this is a short ball for Thiem, and it results in Tsitsipas winning the point. Now, 1-4. Thiem hits a return off of a first serve. Good job getting it in play, but it was central. And Tsitsipas has control of the point. But Thiem takes a neutral ball on the backhand and just rips it cross court to draw the error. It's very aggressive shot selection from Thiem, and this is going to be a theme. He's taking a neutral ball off the backhand, or a neutral ball in general, and he's attacking off that ball. Even if it's not necessarily a short ball, even if Tsitsipas has good court position and there's no real reason to go after it, this was the nature of Thiem shot selection at this point in the match. And this is very important when talking about what decided this tiebreak. At 2-4, Thiem runs around a backhand on the deuce side and hammers a second serve return. Gets an inside-out forehand and rips it, goes to the net, and puts away a smash. This was a signature second serve return point by Thiem where his forehand took over and won him the point. And there's your mini breaks. So Thiem with a brilliant backhand off a neutral ball and then a much more sustainable, a beautifully drawn up point off of a great second serve return by Thiem, gets back the second mini break. Now it's 3-4. Second serve to Tsitsipas's backhand by Thiem. decent return, starts the point neutral, but right away, Thiem goes for broke. Backhand down the line. Hits it with great depth, incredible pace, makes it in the court. Too much for Tsitsipas to handle. He can't defend. So, and Tsitsipas hit a good enough return here where he probably thought that this was going to be a good point starter, start a neutral rally. But Thiem just goes for broke right away. Backhand down the line. Moving backwards, by the way. Tsitsipas's return was good enough where it actually moved Thiem backwards. But even moving backwards, he still rips it down the line. 4-all. Good slice out wide on the first serve. Tsitsipas gets the ball back in play, but it's attackable, and Thiem shanks the forehand. Doesn't hit the strings. It goes long. Unforced error from Thiem. 5-4, Tsitsipas leads now. That's the mini break. The match is on his racket. Second serve, long neutral rally. Thiem rips a backhand down the line. Tsitsipas has excellent pace absorption because Thiem hits this really heavy, and he's able to neutralize cross-court forehand by Tsitsipas. But it's short enough where Thiem gets another shot at this. He goes to attack it, and it hits the tape. It was a forehand down the line that probably would have won him the point. And it was right there for him. It was in the midcourt, and he just hit the tape. And Thiem knew it. Thiem knew that was that chance. He put his hands on his head after missing that forehand. It was exactly what he wanted after a really well-played point by both. But there's another unforced error. 6-4 Tsitsipas. Set point, and I'll show you what happens now with some screenshots. You remember earlier in the tiebreak, I told you about the best point Thiem played where he, on the deuce side, Tsitsipas' second serve went T. He ran around it, ripped a forehand line or inside out, then hit another inside out forehand and put the volley away. Thiem is anticipating the second serve down the T. So watch his split step. You see him move to his left here. From here to here, Thiem jumps to his left, and Tsitsipas hits a very much a slider, tailing serve out wide, and Thiem catches it late and misses the return. And that was it. So what's the theme here? What happened here? Well, almost every single point was won or lost on Thiem's racket. Here's what happened with Tsitsipas. He played more within himself and therefore was the steadier player, and it won him the match. You do not need to win every point in tennis. You just can't lose. You don't have to win. You just have to lose less. This is the kind of mindset that Tsitsipas is not known for. It's more of a young Nadal or Djokovic like mindset. But the steadier player who makes less errors, who plays more within themselves, in this case, Tsitsipas was rewarded for playing more within himself. For Thiem, it was unbelievably aggressive shot selection on a consistent basis here. And what you got was some really spectacular shot making, some points that he won because of it. Some points where he took some backhands down the line and it paid off. But also some instances where, or not enough instances where the ball found the court. And too many instances where he was giving Tsitsipas points where, Stefanos, all he had to do was not be first to miss. And if you're Thiem, you want to ask a little bit more of your opponent than he did in this tiebreak. So let's just tally it up. The first point was won on Thiem's terms. The second point was won on was lost on Thiem's terms, an unforced error. The third point was on Tsitsipas's terms. Fourth point was on Tsitsipas's terms. So that's 2 points on Tsitsipas's terms. I think from that point on, when Tsitsipas led 3-1, I'm pretty sure every single point, or 4-1 rather, no, 3-1, every single point was on Thiem's terms. Every single one. Either an error from Thiem or a winner / forced error drawn by Thiem. So it was really a go for broke kind of mentality for Thiem and shot selection that is more indicative of the old Dominic Thiem than the new Dominic Thiem, but is more suitable for this surface, I will add. That's what got him into trouble, but not consistent enough on this occasion. Here's some general notes for the match before we move on. And I'm just going to pull it up on my phone. The first set was really good serving, not as good returning. And I think Tsitsipas struggled a bit on the first serve return, and Thiem struggled on the second serve return because Thiem was experimenting with his court position. When he moved back, Tsitsipas was serve volleying. And for the rest of the match, Thiem didn't move back anymore, but struggled on the forehand return off of Tsitsipas' second serve and missed a lot of returns. Missed a good amount of second serve returns. And that was partially well done by Tsitsipas by planting that seed, serve volleying in the first set. But Tsitsipas wasn't making enough returns, and Thiem was serving well, but he didn't find the timing until the second and third sets where Stefanos was returning impeccably. I mean, he really found it. And I think that his one-handed backhand is a little bit more well-equipped to turn into a strong, aggressive return. And I think he's more likely to be able to hit over the ball because his one-handed backhand is shorter than most. It's shorter than Thiem's. It's shorter than Shapovalov's. It's a tad shorter than Wawrinka's, and I think it's a little bit more similar to Federer's in the length of stroke and how much time he needs to get it off. And I think it's not quite as beautiful as like Shapovalov's. Feel free to disagree. But I think it's more effective maybe for that reason because he doesn't have that long looping stroke. It's much more of a abbreviated take back, and he kind of just punches forward at it. Doesn't have as much of that long loop. Great net play by both made defense irrelevant. So remember when I gave Thiem the slight edge, I said 3 sets tight, but I gave Thiem the edge. I just thought that maybe there would just be a little bit that Thiem would be able to win a little bit more points off of his back foot than Tsitsipas would be able to from defensive positions. Thought that maybe that would be the case. But Tsitsipas volleyed so well, Thiem volleyed so well, that I felt that defense was a non-factor in this match. Net play kills defense, especially on this surface, because once someone comes to the net, well, now I can't hit my high loopy defense. I can't hit my continental grip defense where I'm hitting defensive slices, is what I mean by that. That goes out the window. If I slice, I'm dead. If I use height and margin, I'm dead. Easy volley, put away. So what you need to do when someone approaches the net is you need to counterattack. It takes defense out of the equation. Thiem could not find passing shots, especially on his backhand. He could not find passing shots. But in the first set, it came down to the tiebreak. Tsitsipas missed too many returns. At 6-all in the first set tiebreak, also, it was a tight second serve from Tsitsipas, and Thiem pounced on it, hit a really strong forehand off of the return. So that's what the first set was so tight. That's what swung it. I think that Thiem won a total of 1 more point than Tsitsipas in the first set. In the second set, though, at love all, Thiem just plays a terribly loose game, and Tsitsipas really he finds his return now and dominates the second set. I don't know if I want to even say much more than that. I mean, there was Thiem was outmatched in the second set. His level dipped, and at love all, he gave Tsitsipas the confidence, I would say. But from that point on, Tsitsipas was just dominant on serve, first strike tennis, net play, forehand, backhand to backhand was dominating Thiem, backhand to backhand. And I don't know if I thought that would be the case, or how many people would think that would be the case, but I think backhand to backhand, Tsitsipas dominated in the second set. In the third set, it got a little bit more even because Thiem found his backhand down the line, found the range on that. Made some crucial errors with it, though. In the third set, Tsitsipas's incredible returning continues and puts a lot of pressure on Thiem. Thiem with some clutch serving. And that's what's going to also be a difference at Wimbledon, at the Australian Open, on fast surfaces, if Thiem wants to have success. God, he's serving bigger. I talked about it in the preview, but he's serving bigger. He's serving clutch to go along with his net play, to go along with his improved returning. Now, Tsitsipas goes up a break here. It looks like he's got it. And I got to say, Tsitsipas, to this point, what a focused match. Focus is so important in tennis. So important. And God, Stefanos has it. God, he's good at focusing over the course of a match. And I do think that when we talk about mental game and we talk about nerve management and maybe how frustrated people get and how people elevate in the big moments, a couple things. The most underrated aspect of mental game is focus. Stefanos has incredible focus. He played one loose game for the entire match, and it was in the third set. He missed a swinging volley, and he hit 2 unforced errors and gave Thiem the break back. So that's where it became extremely close. I think from that point on, Thiem started to really take control of the match with his power, but also make tons of errors. So, and that's what we saw at play in the tiebreak. So that's my thoughts on the match, and it was the best I've seen, some of the best tennis I've seen Tsitsipas play on his return, some of the best I've seen him hit his backhand, but that's been the case all week. But just showing that his forehand is a weapon right up there with Thiem's, and it was unreal tennis by both. So I posed the question in comment response: was this the best match in a big tournament final, not including a member of the big three? Because the tiebreak was so tense. It was such a delight to watch. I mean, it was tight, and it was both players were really going at each other with a warrior's mentality, and they were trading blows back and forth. It was so tense, but was also played with such ruthless aggression by both players. And you guys had some interesting answers. I want to read some of them. Some of you said Del Potro versus Murray in 2016 in Rio. Some of you said Murray against Federer in the Miami final in 2013. Now, that's a match that came to my mind after I asked the question. I think that was a better match than this match. I thought that match was over the course of 3 sets at an even higher level than this match. So Murray Federer, Murray Del Potro in Rio, and then we also got, what else did we get? Del Potro Cilic Davis Cup final 2016. Murray Federer, Murray Delpo at the Olympics. So those are the matches we got. There's a very interesting comment, though, that I will read on this coming up. All right, comment response. Sap Save. He's very good, or she, is very good at getting these top comments. Sap Save. Why are the big three so dominant in the best of 5 setting for the slams, but sometimes struggle in the shorter best of 3 matches and ATP finals? It's a really good question. Maybe that's why it's top comment again. Really good question. 2 points. The first point is the big three are at an unbelievable advantage for the majors based on how they schedule. Freshness is such a weapon, physical freshness, that can provide the kind of energy reserves that other players don't have when they enter a major. Players who are fighting, who are very concerned about prize money and rankings points, they pretty much are playing every week. It is a luxury to be like Nadal or Djokovic or Federer and get to pick and choose which tournaments they play, which tournaments they don't. And they tailor make their schedule to peak for the slams, to have 100% readiness for the slams, to come in match tough but well rested. And most players on tour just don't have that luxury. They need the money. They need the rankings points. They have to play, whether that be on the Challengers Tour, whether that be playing 500s and 250s in the lead up to slams. There is no one who can schedule for the majors like the big three, and that's going to help them more so in the slams than it's going to help them in the Masters events where, well, maybe they're not in peak condition yet. Certainly that's been true for Novak Djokovic coming into Masters in less than peak condition in 2019. I believe that's happened on a couple of occasions. I mean, the second thing is the best of three format. That for sure plays in. You're going to get more variable. With less sample size, you get more variable. That is true if you do a scientific study. That is true in tennis. If I want to figure out if people like vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream more, I'm just going to get a less accurate response if I only poll 3 people than if I poll 500. Well, if I want to figure out who's better, Medvedev or Tsitsipas, I'm going to get a better answer if I make them play more than if I make them play best of 3 sets. I'll get more variable. So that probably plays in as well. I mean, how many times have we seen someone get 2 sets on someone in the big three and, yeah, but you got to win another. I mean, that's tough. You got to win another. And you're, in this case, the inferior player, and you have to win another. That's a tougher task. Mahmoud Abdelaziz. I bet I got that right. I think that's right. How do you rate Federer's chances at the Australian Open next year, given the progress Thiem is making on hard courts and the other next-gen players too? How far in 2020 you think Nadal will keep up his world #1 ranking? And then Murray Wawrinka French Open 2017. Yeah, but that wasn't a final. No, yes it was. Sorry. My bad. Great job by me, of course, in the historian category, as usual. Federer at the Australian Open. Yeah, it's obviously, I think he still has a chance at Wimbledon and the Australian Open, and very little chance outside of that. I can't see him winning at the French ever, which is not a bold statement. But even the U.S. Open, I can't see it. The Aussie, here's what it's going to come down to. Let me simplify this. It's going to come down to his energy and his form and his consistency, but it's going to come down to his energy. He needs a run at Wimbledon where he played a pretty quick 4-setter against Nishikori in the quarters and then managed to play a pretty quick 4-setter against Nadal in the semifinals. That match was not very physical, not very long, so he had 100% gas tank, I think, for the Djokovic match. That's what it takes. It's difficult to achieve that. A lot of that has to do with draw, But I think that what's concerning is that there are so many more players that can challenge Federer, like the Thiems of the world, the Medvedevs of the world, the Zverevs of the world, who's had great success against Federer. And maybe there are some other incoming threats. I do think we need to start thinking about the noise that Murray could make in 2020, possibly. So even if Federer is better than some of those players and will continue to be better than some of those players in 2020, which is a possibility, will he be able to beat them quickly enough to have enough gas tank for the semis and the finals to make a run? A lot has to go right. That's what I make of Federer's chances. A lot has to go right. He's got to get through matches quickly, and a lot's got to go right. Hi there, Raha. Long comment here, but bear with me. Team beat Federer and Djokovic on arguably their best surfaces and probably his worst surface back to back. Medvedev came so close to winning the US Open, pushed Djokovic in Australia, and now the way Tsitsipas has developed himself on the quicker courts, do you think he will be a huge threat in Australia and Wimbledon as well, perhaps? Based on these facts, also that this is the first time that none of the big three members have played the final in the year-end championships when they've all participated since 2009, does this genuinely signal the changing of the guard for 2020? This is what people were talking about. Changing of the guard, changing of the guard. And it's a fair question, but no, not yet. Because the best three players in 2019 were Nadal, Djokovic, and Federer. Still the top three. It's not a changing of the guard if some of them pass Federer yet. It's not really a changing of the guard if one of them passed Nadal or Djokovic, but still it was one or the other at the top at number one. It'll only be a changing of the guard when they're consistently beating these guys, and I don't see that coming in 2020. I don't. Now, I feel like Dominic Thiem is going to be a huge threat at every single slam. And this is a comment that I don't think is going to be popular, but I'm going to make it. I think that Dominic Thiem is going to retire with a better career and very likely more slams than Stan Wawrinka. I think that's the way he's developing, and that's his career trajectory. I mean, I am very high on Thiem. I think Medvedev's a threat. I think Tsitsipas is a threat. But I can't see anything outside of one of them maybe winning one or two majors this year, and the other two, more likely three, and somewhat likely all four, go to the big three again. So I see 2020 as maybe a transitional year where someone breaks through, but not a changing of the guard. Whoops. Try to get through a couple more rather quickly. Oh, I actually didn't take screenshots of any more. But let's see if we can get some more. I will go to the 40-minute mark no longer. I wanted to get to this one. Jake Andrews asks, will Medvedev's collapse against Nadal affect him next season in big matches? And what do you make of his reliance on taking out his frustration on his box every time he loses a point? Doesn't this show his opponent he's kind of weak when put under pressure? You rarely see Rafa or Roger show anything between points. I don't know about that last statement. But certainly not a lot of yapping towards the box by Roger or Rafa. And this will be the last one. It's a good question to end it. I don't make anything of Medvedev going 0 for 3, 0 for 4 for his last four matches in 2019. I don't make anything of it. I think he's going to turn the page. I think he was physically exhausted, had nothing left in the gas tank, and it's understandable. You cannot play nonstop every day almost for 2.5 months and not feel the consequences physically. Medvedev felt the consequences physically. And also played some decent tennis in London. Ran into a very hot Tsitsipas who gave him a good beating, then should have beaten Nadal. He melted down up 5-1, and Nadal is there's no quit in Rafa. A lot of players would have quit, but there's no quit in Nadal. In terms of the box, that's something that Medvedev needs to correct, but I think he will correct because I think he has a lot of self-awareness and I think he has high maturity. But yes, I think that shows opponents exactly when he's frustrated. It shows opponents, okay, now I have the momentum, because Medvedev doesn't do that when he's winning. He does it when he's losing. He does it when things are going wrong. He does it consistently when things are going wrong. And it is a direct signal to the other side of the net that you're doing something right. So Medvedev needs to get that out of his game. All right, as I said, an interview I'm really looking forward to with Guri Nathan, former Deadspin tennis writer. There will also be a lot of content still to end the year, including the annual Monday Match Analysis Awards, one of the best shows of the year, always. So although the tennis season is done, we're not done. There will also be an off-season series on every single player in the top. We'll see how much we extend it, but probably the top 10. And in addition to that, I will look back on the season, possibly with Steve Flink, but also maybe just as an episode unto its own. So there's a lot of content still to come. Hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.